So this is my 2022 Multistrada V4S Sport Full. I ordered it early February 2021 and had to wait till the end of July 2021 to collect her. Now she's done just under 6,000 miles in that time and should be ready for some new tyres probably in the next kind of 500 miles or so. I have some new tyres, some Pirelli Scorpions, OEM fitment, and in terms of things I've done to it, not very much. Some pannier inner bags for a bit more practicality, and one thing I always do is change the filler cap. So I put a quick release filler cap on in black, which I think suits the sport paint job. And then the other thing I fitted was an anti-vibration quad lock mount for the phone, wireless charging, anti-vibration. And finally I fitted a rack. This is actually for an Africa Twin. I think it's a Touratech designed for Africa Twin, and it was silver, and I wrapped the bottom half in matte black, the top half in this carbon fibre wrap, and not everything lined up, so it's a bit Heath Robinson, it's a bit bodged. A couple of bolts in the back there, a couple of really strong cable ties, but it is rock solid on there and does the job. Doesn't look too bad. Of course, I've got my private personalised tag plate on there, and it's got the Kropovich homologated exhaust in there, but you can't see it because of the pannier. And I did have the Enduro kit fitted, so I've got the engine protection bars and the spotlights here. One other thing is these winglets, or wing deflectors. You'll probably notice they are carbon. They're actually carbon wrapped. I got some kind of chemical on them and I just could not clean them. I tried several different products, from kind of WD-40 to Goof Off to all sorts of things. Could not get them off. It just ended up kind of smearing, almost like glue, but it wasn't a glue substance. I have no idea what it was, and I actually ordered some tinted ones to replace them, but in the end I had some carbon wrap lying around and I wrapped them, and I don't think they look too bad. A couple of friends say they look very OEM, so I guess that's about the nicest compliment you could expect. Carbon fibre front mud guard comes with the full sport, and otherwise it's basically box standard OEM. And when I say standard, of course I mean it has active cruise control. We can see the sensor here, and it has blind spot monitoring. It shows up in the top sections of the mirrors here, and it has heated rider and passenger seats, very hot, heated grips, full LEDs all round, cornering ABS, cornering traction control, wheelie control, tyre recalibration, and of course it's a Ducati V4, which are always special. 9k service intervals, 36k for your valves, and she is sweet. And I'm still in love with this bike. I think it's great, but let's go for a little ride and I'll see what pops into my head about what I can tell you about the ownership experience so far. Okay, so another beautiful day in Georgia. It's mid-March, it's only about 53 degrees, but beautiful blue skies and sunshine. It's just such a lovely day to go cruising along the river, which is where we are now, near the Chattahoochee, I should say, nature reserve. And so the bike, first thing most people really want to know is, in 6,000 miles, have you had any reliability issues? And I can say that for me personally, no, really. You can have problems with any bike. I've got friends with problems with Harleys, with Ducatis, with Hondas. Any bike individually can cause a problem, but
generically speaking, I think the Multistrada is a pretty sound bike. Some people have had surging issues where they go along at certain revs and a certain speed and the bike will seem to hunt and surge, doesn't really know whether to open the throttle or close it for you. And I have experienced that on 2 occasions in 6,000 miles. Both occasions lasted very briefly, just going along around about 4,500 revs in 3rd gear, and it just kind of just feels like the throttle doesn't know whether to open or close. And it's nothing dangerous, it's just kind of, it's if you're old school and you're used to motorcycles going on to reserve, it's a little bit like that, but not quite as jerky. And all I did was switch to the sport fuel map, open up the throttle a little bit, seemed to clear instantly, never came back again. So I put that down to dirty fuel from kind of gas stations in the middle of nowhere, just clogging the injectors briefly and just sticking it in sport mode and whacking the throttle open. Seemed to clear the injectors and good to go. Other than that, plain sailing on the reliability front. Now, what do I think that they got wrong or could do better? I think the only single thing they got wrong was partnering with Sygic for the multimedia system on the navigation side of things. It's a complete disaster in terms of the offering that Sygic made to Ducati. You can't import GPX files, you can't save them on their website, and it's just overall a poor show. Now, if you use it just to get from A to B, that works and it's a beautiful looking screen, but you have to keep the Sygic app open, and you have to have the Ducati connected app as your currently activated app, and that is a problem. If you just go from A to B, why not run Waze? You're not going to beat it. There's nothing that is remotely close to beating Waze just going from A to B. So what's the solution is very clearly Apple CarPlay. You pay your license or whatever to Apple to put it on your bike, just as Honda have concluded, just as Indian have concluded, just as all others will no doubt conclude in time. You stick Apple CarPlay on there, and then it's up to the customer to run whatever app they want. Waze runs on it, Sygic runs on it, Riva runs on it, so there are options if you want bespoke route planning with multi-waypoint planning, and there are a number of apps now that will run on CarPlay. So you need CarPlay and of course Android Auto if you're that way inclined. So after that, pretty much scratching my head really. One thing that was obvious they should have got right from the get-go and have now rectified is the heated grips button. On my one, because I've not had the software update, if I select heated grips, select the heated grips button, then it will take me to the menu, and I have to go through the menu option to set the heated grips. Very clearly, if you've got a dedicated button for heated grips, it should just toggle, right? It should just be simple off and then low, medium, high and off again. You just go around in a cyclic motion. If you put the heated grips on, you have to go through the menu, but that's okay, otherwise you get a million buttons on your switchgear, wouldn't you? But they've solved that in the Q1 update for 2023. Now when you press the button, it just toggles through the options, which is great. The other thing that would have been a nice to have, but it's not like any other manufacturer has done it other than Harley Davidson, is to lower the preload when the bike comes to a standstill, because for the shorter of leg it would be awesome to lower it down to the minimum preload, giving you the minimum ride height, minimum over the seat measurement for the short of leg, and even just for those that want the confidence when you stop on a off camber road with potholes and you put your foot down a pothole and yada yada. So Harley Davidson did it right from the get-go, and their bikes, when you get down to a slow speed, I don't know what it is, maybe 10 miles an hour, something like that, it will lower to the minimum preload. When you pull away, you get up to 10 miles an hour and it will go back to the setting that you had it at. So if you are a short but heavy guy, that's perfect. You've got, you know, you can get your feet flat at standstill, you pull away, ups the preload for your heavy weight, and then the bike handles like a sports bike. Awesome. So they did it right. Ducati have still done a half measure, so you have to press and hold the suspension button on the left hand switch gear and then the bike will lower to the minimum preload, and that will happen at any time in any mode below 70 miles per hour, I believe, and above 70 miles per hour it will go back to the setting that you had it at. Alternatively, you can just press the suspension button and it will go back. Why have they done it like that? I can only think that Harley Davidson, who have almost more lawyers than they do engineers, have belt and braces patented that design or that feature somehow, and it makes it very difficult to copy. And certainly we haven't seen it on the new Target 1200 coming out or the new KLIM Adventure, who could, and both of those are electronic suspension, they could easily do it, right? So I'm not sure why they haven't done that yet, but at least it's there and it works. So if you have a Ducati Multistrada and you've had it in for your software update and now your heated grips toggle correctly but the suspension doesn't lower when you press and hold the suspension button for a couple of seconds, they didn't do the update correct. There is a second update. There's a dedicated service bulletin for it, and the mechanic has to go in and set that setting after they've done the Q1 regular software update, which fixes the heated grips and stuff. You get them both done and it's all good. So my friend Jerry, for instance, he's got 28,000 miles on his bike and he's just had both updates done and it's all working tickety-boo. So if you've got a multi, make sure you get both done next time you've got the bike in for new tyres or service, and don't take any flannel about it costing you money. Ducati wrote to all owners and very clearly said the update is free, so make sure when you drop off your bike that you say, I want these updates, I want them to be free, I don't want to be charged labour for it, and I want both updates. So I'm not leaving here unless the heated grips toggle through in the menu on the press of a button, and that the suspension lowers when I press and hold the suspension button down. Okay, just an FYI there for you guys with multi V4s. Now that's really the bitch fest over, so it is not a lot really, is it? We've got a bridge out down here, but I think we'll go down here anyway just for the hell of it, 'cause it's nice down by the river. So that's not massive problems at the end of the day. You know, you can still run a Beeline as I do for navigation, or a Garmin or whatever if you want to. You can run whatever navigation you want on your phone. I've got mine mounted there with my quad lock system, and the heat grips always worked. They're great actually, very hot, and the seat is really hot. It's fantastic when it's freezing weather, and they work. It's just a question of, you know, now they work a little bit better because they've sorted out the menus. So really my only gripe is that I suspect Harley's got the patent tied up on the self-lowering suspension, so you don't have to go to the hassle of pressing the button. You could have it in the menu, you can have it off or on, and if it's on, it automatically lowers at low speed and automatically raises as the speed rises. I think that would be good for a future software update if Harley don't have the patent all, you know, nailed down. And, you know, just get out the contract with SideJet, just do whatever the hell you need to and get yourself Apple CarPlay and Android Auto working on here, and maybe move to over-the-air updates, right, like a Tesla, because this bike is both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, so it can do both. And I think it would be nice if that was available to do over-the-air updates as well. Other than that, wow, really scratching my head for the negatives. I think it's you know, really difficult to find anything negative to say about it. So pull in here a second. is Willio Park in Roswell. It's down by the riverside. Down by the riverside. Down by the riverside. Down by the riverside. Nice. Just go down here. Try not to scare the good people of Roswell. Out getting their exercise on a sunny Sunday afternoon. A great place to live and play. Anyway, I digress. So that's scratching my head for the bad stuff. Let's talk about the good stuff. If you want the you know, pretty much the most powerful, best power to weight ratio, best handling sports bike on stilts, a all-rounder, and a beautiful bike to look at with some kudos and that kind of cheeky je ne sais quoi, the Multistrada V4 is it. I knew it before I even ordered it. I rarely order a bike without riding it. I've made that mistake before. Better to wait till you've ridden it and make sure it's for you. Get over the jingoism and excitement of a new shiny toy. But I knew it, just looking at the specs on this, I knew this was going to be a fantastic bike. And so it's proved to be. So what are the things that I really love about it? Well, let me tell you, the first thing is comfort. I like to ride long rides, and I like to ride all year round. So when I ride, it's typically 200 miles, 250 mile days, and I want to be comfortable, whether I'm doing a speed I shouldn't be doing on the freeway, or whether I'm razzing it through the canyons, or whether I'm doing just what I'm doing here, just cruising along like a stuck in traffic, 4th gear, 3000 RPM, 40 miles an hour. It's just fabulous. The seat is very reminiscent of a GSA's. It's very flat and very soft in its initial cushioning, and then it firms up, and it is more comfortable than a GSA, which is really quite a statement in itself. It's one of the most comfortable bikes ever made. And the other key part of that is the quality of the suspension, which is better than the BMWs, both the XR and the GSA, in my personal opinion. The ride quality is just really exceptionally good, particularly in sport mode, but also in touring. It's very good, very sharp, very compliant, and just very comfortable. The handlebars are just at the right height, you know, they're not too high, they're not too low, they're not too far forward, they're not too far back, they're just where you want them. And this screen, which looks nice because it's not too big and not too wide, is just perfect. I've tried screen lips on it and all that jazz, and just the stock screen is right. Whoever spent time in the wind tunnel developing the ergonomics on this bike just got it right. I'm sure the wind deflectors make a difference as well, but for me, with the screen up, I could ride at, you know, whatever speed I wanted to on this. There's certainly a speed that would put me in jail for a long period of time, without any discomfort. So I like the airflow management, and that's usually a problem when you're, you know, over 6 foot as I am, but I do like the airflow. I do like the comfort. I do like the handling. Now, it has a 19-inch front wheel, but so do a plethora of big adventure bikes such as the GSA, for instance, and there's swings and roundabouts to that. If you want to do a track day, if you want to be the fastest guy through the canyons, but you know, you have a wrist problem or something, then buy a Pikes Peak. It's going to be a better bike for that. It's going to, if you only do short mileage, low mileage a year, and you just want to ride solo without luggage and razz it, give it the full beans everywhere, Pikes Peak's the one for you, no doubt. But if you like to take a change of clothes, like some waterproofs, you know, puncture repair kit, bottle of water, picnic, you like to ride on a cold day and want a taller windshield, you want heated grips and heated seat, you want a front wheel that rides the potholes that little bit easier, more forgiving, you want tyres that last that little bit longer, then you definitely want the regular, for want of a better expression, V4S. It's anything but standard, as we know, but that's really what you want. Other things I like, the TFT is beautiful. It's very, very clear. It has some decent size numerics and writing. I wish Triumph would take a note out of Ducati's book in that respect. I have trouble close-up vision, as a lot of guys do in my age bracket, and it's just very pleasant, very easy on the eyes, and very easy to, whip through the menus. And the joystick feels sturdy, the switchgear feels quality, and the TFT can actually be angled slightly as well, so you can get a good flat perspective. I run quad lock system for my phone, and I powered that from the 12-volt socket they kindly put in the dashboard for us. The screen goes up and down literally with one finger, so that is perfect as well. Hot summer's day, you might want it down around town for some airflow. You get out on the freeway, whap it up, and you've got nice protection. I've not had any problems with the wireless ignition in terms of keyless ignition in terms of starting. Always starts on the gut of go. Just zero problems, even if I leave it for a couple of weeks in very cold weather. Doesn't seem to have any issue whatsoever starting up again. Mirrors are exceptionally good. I'm broad, so I always see my shoulders and arms in mirrors. I barely see them on this, and the mirrors are largely vibe free. They're very stylish looking as well. I would never replace them because it's got the blind spot monitoring in them, and that is superb. But even if it didn't, I wouldn't replace them anyway, because they're so stylish. The curves, the angle, and the overall design, it really suits the bike. Very Italian. When you look at the mirrors on the new Tiger 1200, for instance, it's very disappointing for a bike in that price range. And also on the Tiger 1200, the handguards on this are very solid and very secure, and the plastic's quite thick. It's very, very flimsy on the new Tiger, which is a shame. There's a couple of things on that new Tiger I feel personally a bit disappointed. I like the idea of shaft drive and a big tank, and I think it looks pretty good from the front, and they've got some nice specs on that thing, but some of the fit and finish and some of the castings leave a little bit to be desired, and you can't do that in this group. When you look at the quality of the scroll wheel on a GSA, for instance, or you look at the single finger screen adjustment on the Multistrada, you just can't do that. You've got to get things right. And as we've established, no bike is perfect, but it's very, very, very difficult to find a fault with the new Multi V4S, other than moving to Apple CarPlay with a simple software update. There's just nothing I dislike about this bike. I like the way it looks, I like the way it rides, I like its comfort, I like the way that if I want to abuse the revs up near the red line and thrash it through the lanes, it will do it like my Street Fighter did. It's a very, very good all-round bike that can do a multitude of things. So if you want one special bike and you have the means, because it's not a cheap machine, but you can only afford or only justify one bike, it's really tough to know what would be better. I guess if you are, if you really truly value quality and dependability above all else, because perhaps you commute to the office every day throughout winter, and when you buy your bike, it's got to be good for 70,000 miles because you're going to have it forever. then a BMW GSA is probably the most obvious choice, and it's one of the reasons why they're very popular and rule the category in terms of sales. But if you want to lift up your garage door and see something that makes you smile, if you want to go out riding up the freeway with your mates on sports bikes, but you're far more comfortable, warm and costed, and then when you get into the twisties you're not remotely left behind. In fact, you're embarrassing a lot of the sports bikes because the ease at which you can use the performance on this, and the advantages you've got of things like being able to see further ahead and big wide bars to help with counter steering and stuff. If you want to have some fun, basically, if you want a premium bike that is also sporty, with a bit of kudo, because let's face it, it's nice to have a nice toy, isn't it? And it's not, without being too shallow, it's always cool to say you own a Ducati, right? Everybody knows what a Ducati is. Even women that are not that really into bikes know that a Ducati is cool, right? It's a two-wheel Ferrari, and that's what you get with the Multistrada. It's just that it can do both things. When you want it to be a laid-back limo, S-Class, Maybach, it can do that stuff. And then when you want it to rip and snort a little, it's very surprising just how capable this bike is. And yeah, it can go off-road, but you're never going to ride it off-road, right? But it will do the gravel roads and the fire trails with ease, particularly when they're dry. And of course, if you were to put you know, partial dirt, partial road tyres on it, you'll then be able to rip a bit off-road if you're prepared to drop it, which I wouldn't be personally. But you know, when the road runs out and you've got 10 miles of gravel road to do, it doesn't even break into a sweat. It's an awesome bike. Will I keep it forever? No, of course not. I'm just not that sort of person. Every few years or so I'll try something else. Would I buy another? I certainly would consider it, yeah, for sure. There's really nothing about the bike I don't like at all. If you don't mind shaft drive, chain drive over shaft drive, if you don't mind filling up every 150 miles or so, then what's not to like? It's just an awesome all-round bike. So people make a big thing of the chain adjustments and cleaning and stuff, but I do mine once a month, and it literally takes me 5 minutes to clean and re-lube the chain. And in 6,000 miles I've only had to adjust the chain once. It's only been out of true once, and even now at 6,000 miles it's not looking like it's going to need an adjustment remotely before the tyres want replacing. And I'm going to put Pirelli Scorpion tyres back on them because they're OEM equipment. They seem to last well and they work well, irrelevant of the temperature and irrelevant of the conditions, whether it's wet or dry or slippery or grippy. I think it's they've sensibly not over tired it, but they've given it enough tyre to have a little bit of fun with it. And I think the OEM tyres are a good choice. Michelin Anarchies also work very well on the BMWs, and I'm quite a Michelin fan, so might try those at some point. But to be honest with you, this bike has changed every nut and bolt since it first came out 20 years ago and was obviously a L-twin in them days. And the only thing that's pretty much remains the same is the tyres. They've always been Pirelli Scorpions to my knowledge, and they continue to have that good relationship. Obviously Italian companies, but they're obviously well developed for this bike, and they seem to suit it and work really well. What else? The lights are brilliant. You know, yeah, I've had bikes with better lights, but you know, they're still better than 9 out of 10 bikes I've owned. They do illuminate very well. I think the spotlights could do with being a little bit brighter. I would say they're definitely more about visibility to other car users than of genuine benefit at night. If you ride a lot at night, you might want to consider some aftermarket spots, which is one thing Eric's done on his Multistrada. But the lighting in general is very, very bright and very clear, and the fit and finish is good. There's plenty of clear coat over the stickers on the tank, for instance, which is always a good indication of you know, how much effort they're willing to put into the fit and finish. Nothing is tarnished, nothing has rusted, everything has worked perfectly, nothing has broken, and really it's been as dependable as any other machine I've ever owned. So I think we'll leave it there. I think that's a good enough update for 6,000 miles. I'll give you an update again at 9,000 miles after I've had the first service, see whether they spot anything that I couldn't see or whatever. But for now, I think it's great, and if you're thinking about buying one, I would say buy with confidence. If you want the best all-round sporty big adventure bike right now, this is it. Alright, ride often, ride careful, ride on.
Hey you, if you want to become one of the Ride On people, don't forget to subscribe. Ride often, ride carefully, ride on.